Hi, everyone. Happy Wednesday or hump day, I guess it is. Welcome to your masterclass all around chaos to clarity. It's really about time management hacks. And quite honestly, I had planned this weeks ago, if not months ago, and yet it's extremely timely and very relevant for right now. So I am thrilled that you're here, whether you're live or you've registered to receive the replay. I am just grateful that you're here, that you're taking the time. You might have it if you are at home and you possibly even wanted to kind of get away from all the noise that might be going on in your home environment or in your workplace. And I am just glad to have you here and for me to provide some winning strategies, tips, and tools that you could be using right now in order to stay as productive as possible, as positive as possible, optimistic as possible, and even taking advantage of all the unbelievable opportunities that are out there. Should you clear your mind, clear your anxieties, clear your stress, and actually be able to see them and recognize them. And that's what we really want to be talking about today. So I'm going to give a couple seconds for people to jump on. I will remind you that if you do not have your workbook, then please check your emails. If you've registered, check your emails, and you will find emails from me as a follow-up into today's program with the links to your workbook. All right. And for those, again, who have registered, you not only receive the workbook, but you receive the replay in case you can't be here live, and or you want to have it and file it so you can reach into it at a later point. But for those of you who are, maybe you're seeing me stream on my main profile page on Facebook, and you haven't registered, you didn't even know about the program, you still have an opportunity if you have the time to sit and watch it now and or at a later date. I provided the link into kind of the welcoming of this post, and you can go to that link and to that site and give me just your first name and your email address, and you can immediately download the workbook. And then once this program is over today, I'll be deleting it from the live stream, but I'll be holding on to the file so I can send it to you, anyone that's registered, so you have it in case you weren't able to make it live. All right. So just a few of those things. Some more logistical things before we dive into anything is grab not only the workbook, but grab a notepad and a pen. I'm a big journaler. If you follow me at all, I always talk about journaling, getting it out of your head and onto a piece of paper. And if there is any better time to be ensuring that you're not allowing all of your emotions, all of your anxieties, all of your bitches, as I call them in my world, to get into your head, this is the perfect time to be journaling on a regular basis, to be purging good, bad, or indifferent, things that you're witnessing, things that you're experiencing, things that you're learning through all of this. This has got to be going on for a reason. Everything happens for a reason, at least in my world. Everything happens for a reason. There's a purpose behind everything. And what I'm hoping for you is that you're able to see what those purposes are, what those lessons are, what those teachings are, and what those opportunities are. And we're going to talk about more of that in just a second. For a little bit about me, for those of you who may not be familiar with me, like I said, you might be seeing this in your stream and you just happen to hop on just to curious as to what it's all about. I'm Bernadette Bose. I am a premier and expert executive coach, business consultant, transformational coach. I'm an author, and I work day in and day out to help people thrive through any type of situation, whether it be just a common challenge that you're having at work or at home, or if it's something as severe and as drastic as this situation, this pandemic, is creating for a lot of people. And my job is to provide you tips, tools, strategies, coaching, mentoring, a sounding board, and some tough love at times in order for you to really work through what it is that you're dealing with, good, bad, or indifferent. Ask you a lot of questions so you really understand what your thoughts are, what your beliefs are, what your words are. And I help you to kind of lead your way into solutions and opportunities and into the dreams and the goals that you have for yourself. I have been in the corporate environment for about 25 years up until 2008. And since 2008, I have been doing this work. And just each and every day, each and every week, month, and year, it just becomes more relevant and more of a absolute passion and love that I have for helping and seeing. I get to witness the growth of individuals that at one point were struggling and are now thriving. And that's what this particular program is going to be all about today. Is I want you to make a choice right now as you're sitting, during this session. And I want you to say to yourself, I am going to thrive through this, however you might define it. I am going to thrive. You need to be open. You need to be clear. You need to be free of anxiety and stress and worry, because all that's going to do is cause you to shut down. All that's going to do is prevent you from being creative, from really seeing and hearing and smelling and tasting and experiencing all the opportunities that are out there right now. Just a little story. Back in 2008, I had mentioned I had left corporate pretty much at the latter part of 2007, early 2008. And I went out immediately to start my own business. I knew I wasn't going to continue in corporate. I went looking for strategic partners initially and then clients by the end of 2008 when all hell broke loose with the recession. Now, I saw 99% of not just businesses and people, but of coaches and consultants. I saw them kind of running for cover, running scared, running desperate. And I said to myself, well, no, this is the time that we need to be harnessing, especially those of us that have the experience, have the expertise, have the desire to want to serve and help other people through trying times like now. So what I said to any prospect I met, any client that I had already had, is I was going to let them kind of work through and process their anxiety and their stress and their fear and their pain. But at some point, I was then shutting them down and saying, okay, now I need you to switch, and I need you to really be considering what opportunities you could be leveraging and taking advantage of as a result of everything that's seems to be falling apart around us. Because in these times, there are still businesses hiring. There are still products and services that need to be made, delivered, and purchased. There are still jobs. There are still, golden nuggets that you can be taking advantage of. And we talked a lot about that yesterday as part of the combination of Shedding the Bitch radio as well as a live stream that I had done. So you can always go back to that episode to hear more in regards to all the creative ways that you could be considering how you use your skills, talents, expertise, experience, even your passions and your hobbies, maybe to do something totally new, maybe to just, continue what you're doing, but you need to find another source of income in order to support yourself right now. And so today what I want to do is, with that open mind, with that creativity, with all of those opportunities that lay before you, I want to also address what I've been getting regular phone calls and emails about. And that is, all right, I am, out of the office and I'm at home and I'm working. At home, I'm working with my kids who are also, needing to be schooled, and with my spouse or partner or whomever who needs to be doing their own work, and or they're always, coming at me for my time and my attention. And I am having a really difficult time adjusting to this new normal. So based on that, I really wanted to pull out one of my most popular subjects that I always coach and talk and train on. And that is around really, dealing with chaos and providing a path to clarity. And it comes down to time management. It comes down to attention and priority. It comes down to you really restructuring your life with habits and disciplines and routines that will ensure that you are as productive as possible and that you are maintaining, even like right now, some normalcy, but you're also adapting and shifting into new behaviors and new results and new success. All right. So that's what we're going to spend a lot of our time talking about today. And I just want to remind, as I see people coming on and I see people in the chat room, that if you don't have your workbook, look above in the post, and I provided you the link that you can go out to the site and put your name and email address, and you'll immediately have the access to your workbook. And at the same time, you'll also get a replay of this in case you're not here live with us and or you have to leave early or whatever the case might be. I also want you to be posting if you have any questions, if you have any challenges that you're dealing with, if there's something that I could be helping you with within the time that we're going to spend together today, even if it means that we go a little, beyond what we, want to do, which is about an hour. I'm here for you. I am here for you. I cleaned my slate. And I figured, just like yesterday, following that broadcast, I had 2 or 3 people reach out to me, both by email and phone, to ask me questions and ask me follow-ups from the discussions that we had. So, don't think that when this video ends that it's all taken care of. You actually have an opportunity right now and beyond to get the support and the help that you need. All right. All right. One last thing, and this has been an adjustment and a shift for me, and a decision that I made about an hour and a half ago. Many of you have come into our Shift to Riches private forum, and in that, back in February, early February, I want to say, I had done a live coaching masterclass called Goals to Riches. And it covered a whole number of things, everything from the challenges of setting goals, you actually defining and creating your goals, you dealing with the highs and the lows of pursuing and achieving your goals, and giving you tips and tools and resources to help you through that process. We talked about a Richie mindset, what that is. We talked about how words matter. And the words that you're using to yourself and to others are critical, and it defines your actions, behaviors, your belief systems, and the results that you get and the success and or lack of that you get in life. So it was a very successful program, of which I'd gotten some great feedback on, and I was planning to launch it later in April. But based on feedback that I had gotten over the last, I would say, 5 to 7 days, I decided to pull the trigger and get ready and amp it up to go live on Monday. So we're not going to talk more about that here, but just so you know, if you want information in regards to it, I will be posting it and sharing it. But at the same time, if you want some direct information regarding it, it's free. It's free. It's not going to cost you anything other than your time and your commitment and doing the work, because that's where you're going to get the results. And I'll be sharing some of that feedback from those that have attended the last launch. I will share that feedback so you know that you will be utilizing your time very, very justly and very valuably. So that'll go off on Monday, and I'll make sure that I send out all that information. But in the meantime, you can also send me a direct message here. Or if you are here and you've registered for the workbook and the replay, I'll be sending you information in regards to it as well. But it's going to mean a lot of work for me for the next few days to get it ramped up and ready to go. But at the same time, I really want you all to take advantage of what you could be doing right now to thrive through this situation that we're all in. And please know, I am sending you a big hug and a big kiss and a big sense of, I hear you, I feel you, and we are all in this together, and we will get through it. All right, we will get through it. All right, so let's dive into this. Now, the difference between people who are thriving through this, this type of climate, and those people who just survive is drastically different and very apparent as you go about life. There's those that are boo-hooing and they're really stressed out and they just can't get out of their own way. And I appreciate that and I fully understand it. And there is absolutely no judgment here as far as how you're dealing with it. But if I can get you, even with a little bit of tough love, if I can get you to kind of, shift just a little bit, hit that reset button and say, you know what, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to feel this way. I don't want to, kind of be buried under all this anxiety and all this stress. Then what I want to kind of provide you is a vision of what these people who are thriving through this and will thrive through this, what they look like, what their world's looking like right now. Well, what it looks like is whether you're a business owner, you're a freelancer, you work for another company, people right now are recognizing that there is tons of money out there to be made. Now that might sound really greedy, but guess what? If you're out of work, if you've lost your job, if you lost your source of income, then it's not greedy. It's what you need to be doing to support your family. But there is huge opportunities out there in order to make money. All right. And how you do that is basically what they're doing, I should say, what the people that are thriving doing is they're finding holes and gaps in the marketplace and they're filling it. And we talked a lot about that yesterday, so I'm not going to repeat it. They recognize that they can drastically save money on the products, the services, the materials, the people, the real estate, the infrastructure that they need in order to start, if they have never had a business before, manage and grow their business. So they're recognizing that, yes, everybody seems to feel as if they're retreating and they're not going to be spending, but it's not true. It's not true because there's many people out there that are recognizing that, you know what, I still need to do what I need to do to keep my business afloat, do what I need to do to keep my job, do what I need to do to, just be able to feed myself. So there's a lot of money that you could be saving if you want to go out and invest in people, products, services, materials, so forth and so on. They're also finding opportunities that weren't there yesterday. They're finding those opportunities. They're looking kind of where the hole is, the gap is in the marketplace. And they're saying, I wonder if somebody's trying to solve this issue or this problem or this need. And if so, I want to jump on board, maybe get a job with them, maybe be part of whatever it is that they're creating, and or they're saying, well, wait a minute, maybe I need to start it myself. All right. They're creating new opportunities, as I mentioned, and they're taking risks. They're taking risks knowing that, you know what, I need to do something new and different from what I've done to date in order to be able to feed my family, in order to be able to pay the bills, in order to be able to, rely on myself versus any kind of, support from the government or whomever else. So those that thrive are recognizing that they have huge opportunities. So I had digressed before I finished my 2008 scenario. So as all these coaches and consultants, which I was now at the time, were retreating, I went out and I was filling a docket of almost a couple dozen clients in late 2008 all the way through 2010. And while other coaches and consultants were finding themselves coming up empty, and I would have all these coaches and clients coming to me saying, what are you doing? What are you doing differently than I'm doing? Because you do the same thing that I do. And I said, well, I'm just not feeding the fury and feeding the fear and feeding the desperation. I look at these things as abundant opportunities for those that will take advantage of it. And I'm hoping that that's you. I'm hoping that you're in that abundant mindset. And if you're not there yet, that's okay too. Just, kind of commit to yourself that you want to work your way there, and then, take some steps to do that. So getting down to practicalities of, okay, so I've just committed that I want to thrive. I just committed that I want to go out and look for those new opportunities. What people are dealing with is very practical. They're dealing with, okay, I'm not accustomed to working in my home and dealing with all the kids and the the other people in the environment, and my schedule is very flux right now, so forth and so on. So we want to talk about 9, if not 10, practical things that you could be doing and considering as you adjust to this new norm. Now, the first one is, if you're familiar with the Pareto rule, the 80-20 rule, the first thing that I often have to get my clients to consider is the majority of what they're doing, the majority of the actions they put out on their little list of to-dos have nothing to do with their goals that they've defined, and or that the list that they have, the items that they're actually acting on are not getting them anywhere near where they need to be in order to achieve that goal. So the 80-20 Pareto rule basically states that 80% of your outcomes, 80% of the results that you're going to make come from only 20% of the actions that you need to be taking. So again, 80-20. 80% of the outcome and the result that you want come from only 20% of the actions that you've defined on this list of to-dos in order for you to achieve your goal. Now, you can get into a room full, like I do, of coaches and consultants who will even debate that it's much higher than that based on their experience with their clients. That their clients have this to-do list, and it could be, and I mentioned previously on another session that I had a client that had 2 or 3 pages when I asked him to lay out all the things that he does in a given day, week, or month to achieve his goals. There was like 3 legal pad pages of actions, personal and professional. And I thought to myself, oh my gosh, Bruce, it will never happen. We have got to take it down to about a quarter of that first page, let alone those 2 and 3/4 other pages. So what I want you to be thinking about is, all right, here's my list of all the things that I do. Even if it's just all the things that I do business-wise toward my goals, and really say to yourself, all right, which ones are truly going to contribute to any type of result that I have and I want from my business. And that's the kind of the first thing that you want to do, is to kind of consider that this 80-20 rule is real. And like I said, many coaches and consultants will debate that it's more like 99-1. That 99% of your outcome comes from 1% of the actions that you need to be taking. So this is what I propose to individuals to do, is to create a mindset that is of a time manager. All right? So we're really good in business and even at home of kind of fitting into a role, into a function. We even are very comfortable in saying that we're part of this hierarchy, and this is my title, and this is the number of people that work for me, and these are the responsibilities that I have. So with that in mind, what I want you to do when it comes to you being productive, you being effective, you being sane in kind of operating on a day in, day out basis, is say to yourself, I'm a time manager, and the first thing I need to do as a time manager is I need to put the structure, put the goals, put the plan in place in order for me to operate my role as effectively as possible. So look at time manager being both a role but a mindset, a shift in how you look at things. We're talking about productivity improvements today, but I really want you to really look at it like, well, it's just part of my role. It's part of my responsibility, is being a time manager, and I need to respect that And in order to respect that, I need to do things differently and do things that are actually going to get me results and not be that, you know, 80% that's getting you nothing. Because that's the opposite of the Pareto rule, right? 80% of your outcomes come from 20% of your actions. Well, the opposite of that is the fact that 80% of the actions you are taking are delivering only 20% of your results. Would you really want that? Would you really want to be killing yourself working on 80% to only achieve 20% of your outcomes? No, what we want to do is we want to flip that on its head and say, no, I'm only going to work on 20% of what's on this to-do list because I know that 20% is going to give me 80% of my outcome. Now, notice I didn't go to 100% because things change, things happen, you know, life like we're in right now. So what you just want to do is even if you got to, you know, 10% gives you 40%. And then 15% gives you 60%. Just get results is the point. Take it from that 20%. You don't want 20% of your outcome. You want 60, 70, 80, and hopefully that 100, if not even more. All right. So first thing to look at is consider yourself as of right now, this moment, that you are a time manager. Okay. Now, based on that, these are nine strategies you could be using. And a couple of them, for those of you that might have pulled down the workbook early, and I'm saying early as in last week, I sent you a couple of notices to print at least the first page, but download the latest version because I did add some things based on our current environment. I did kind of respond to the phone calls and the emails that I had been getting over the last 3 or 4 days. So the first thing I want you to think about is remote work management. Remote work management. Now, this is one of the new ones, obviously. I've been working on my own remotely, probably since 97. I'm aging myself. Because when I went into my last corporate company back in 97, our jobs were remote, although we also had an office in the corporate offices. But we traveled so much, so we worked predominantly remotely. So I'm accustomed to having some of these things in place. So I take them for granted. But after a few phone calls I've had over the last week, absolutely feeling your pain and your stress and your anxiety, I knew it needed to be addressed. So I tend to look at these things as like the day in the life. First off, I would say is if you've gone from a corporate office into your home workplace, treat it just as if you're still at work. Treat your day, Monday through Friday or whatever your work schedule is, as if you are still going into an office. All right? That's the first thing I want you to kind of shift into your mind. So I want you to kind of set your schedule. Now, you might automatically know it, but there's communication here that you're going to need to consider. So set your schedule and determine when you're going to work. All right? And so that might be, well, I typically get out of the house at, 8:30, and my job is at 9, and I work till 5, and I'm home, so forth and so on. And I do take a break, and I do take lunch, whatever the case might be. Communicate that to whomever it is that's impacted along with you in your home or within your universe. All right. Let them know. Look, just because I'm home doesn't mean I can all of a sudden be running errands or going to the park or taking a walk or watching TV or doing unnecessary cooking, so forth and so on. That, you need to communicate on a regular basis to the kids, to your partner, spouses, whomever, to your dog, whoever it is, they need to know that things can't, necessarily 100% change as a result of the fact that you're now working in the home. So your schedule is going to be really, really important. I got a call from someone, I want to say it was Saturday or Sunday, and they're a longtime colleague and friend. So I took the call. I mean, I work, 7 days a week if you need me. But I took the call, and they were very stressed and having a very difficult time adjusting to a new schedule, being that they're working from home. And I'm like, why? What's different? And I said, and they're like, well, I'm also finding myself working until really late at night. And I'm getting up first thing in the morning and I'm getting right onto the computer and working. And I said, well, what were your hours during your work week? And they were like, well, like 8:45 roughly to 5 o'clock. And I'm like, well, guess what? Then tell yourself. Now, this had no influence. There was no pressure from anybody else other than themselves. And I said, then kind of tell yourself, okay, even though my computer's right there, and not even in another room, doesn't mean you have to be on it. It takes restraint, especially if you're at work with like a desktop or a laptop that stays at work, but now you're carrying it home, or now it is at home. It just because it's there doesn't mean you necessarily have to be on it 24/7. And you don't want to be. You need to have your downtime. You need to have a life. You need to have room to breathe and process everything. All right. So setting up your daily schedule is going to be the first thing that you can do, and keep it as normal as possible. And I'm talking your start and end date. I'm talking your breaks, lunch. If you're smoke, stop. But if you smoke, and you go out on breaks, just keep it as normal as possible when it comes to that. And don't feel pressure, because it's only pressure from yourself. It's only pressure from yourself. I will have a hard time believing that it might be pressure from your company, because you can easily say to them, well, I don't keep these hours when I'm in the office, so why am I suddenly needing to do them here? The next thing would be, okay, so now you're up, Monday morning. I would recommend for most of you to get dressed. I don't anymore. I put on kind of some athletic wear, and I'm very comfortable, and I make sure that I'm very kind of fluid and comfortable, unless I go out to a meeting. But for those that are starting a remote experience, I would definitely recommend that you get up and you get yourself dressed, and you wear actually shoes and socks or whatever it is that you wear, only because it really does put you in a certain mindset. It does shift your mood and your attitude when you go from maybe your robe into whatever your workwear would be. All right. Now, if weeks and months down the road, because you decided to stay remote, you say, okay, well, I can kind of loosen up on that, I would suggest that. But there's something to say about getting up in the morning, needing to get productive and get to work. And if you're not accustomed to being in your pajamas or in your robe or in your sweatpants, then it can cause some disconnect with your norm, within yourself. Okay. I also recommend to my clients, if you pack a lunch to go to work, then do the same. Prepare it, pack it, put it in the refrigerator. When you take your break, you treat it just as if you would at work. Now, of course, many people go out at work for lunch, and now you're having to eat in. But again, as normal as possible, okay? You can set up video virtual collaborations. I mean, Zoom, Skype, they're going gangbusters right now. Opportunity. They're finding huge opportunities in the marketplace with all of us at home. And then, like I said, you need to discuss and collaborate with those that are in your environment with you right now. So I have, for instance, a family who some are out on their own working. One's in college. Well, a couple are in college. One's in their master's. There's one in high school. And I would propose to even them, I would say, one of them is extremely disciplined. Oh my gosh, I just am in awe of her with how disciplined she is with her studies. And that's the one with the master's, working on her master's. And it could be beyond her master's, actually, but that's okay. But I would hope that even in this environment, with the added stress, with the added anxiety, with the added unknowns, with the added fears, I would hope that she and the others are just keeping to their discipline, keeping to their routine, keeping to their determination that they're going to get the work done, and they're going to have a future, and yet they have to deal with all this other stuff that's going on out there around them. Okay, so your remote work management function as a time manager, as we discussed, is really just to define a schedule, communicate it to all of those that are impacted, and then keep to it. And don't, try to overwork it, and then certainly don't try to deplete it to the point where you are sitting on your couch eating bonbons instead of getting work done. And for those of you who sadly have lost your job, lost your income stream, take the same attitude. It's almost like what I tell people when they go to look for a job. Looking for a job is a full-time job. So keep that time manager hat on and treat the fact that you're out of work and create the same type of schedule that you had before, the same type of disciplines, the same type of breaks and interruptions and all that kind of good stuff. And then just focus it on creating new opportunities for yourself, seeking out new jobs for yourself, so forth and so on. All right. And again, a reminder, you can go back to yesterday's session, which is still up and online, where we talked about how to get creative and what other opportunities are out there, even in the midst of all the chaos that's going on around us. All right. Okay. The next tip would be, and I talk to my business owners a lot about this, is time value management. So I get a lot of questions all the time about, I don't know how much, I don't know how much I should be valuing myself, my services, my products, what my rate should be. And more so, this is a critical strategy for that to-do list in knowing what it is that you need to, knowing what that 20% is that you need to be working on versus what you need to kind of throw away or delegate out or do something differently with. All right. So that's what this strategy is about. It's called time value management. What it means is you're going to put a value on your hourly time based on the goal that you have for yourself. So let me break it down. Whether you're in corporate and you have your job still or you're looking for a job, you have a salary, right? So that salary is equivalent to a business owner who would have a revenue objective, of which from that revenue, they have a income, what they can pull from that revenue and pay themselves with, okay? So let's make it easy. And let's say that your salary and or your income or your revenue goal, your revenue goal is $100,000. There is roughly, don't quote me, 2,100 hours in a work year. 2,100 hours fluctuates, not necessarily fluctuates, but it's not quite that, but it's about 2,100 hours. So if you were to take $100,000 and divide it by that 2,100 hours, you would come up with an hourly value. You could do the same if you want to make $50,000 or you need to find a job for $250,000, whatever the case might be. The hours are still the same. And don't worry if I put in 60 hours a week. No. Just use the average hours of a given work year and divide that into the goal that you have, whether it's for a salary or it's for a business owner or for your own business. Now, based on that hourly value, you now can make decisions very easily about what you should be working on and what you shouldn't be working on. So let me give you an example. If you come up with an hourly salary or hourly revenue you need to be making, and you come up that it's $100 an hour, and you're doing things like running to the dry cleaners during the day or going to the grocery store or doing your landscaping or doing some graphic designs in your business or doing your social media posts and your tweets and your Facebook pages and all that kind of good stuff. And you have to keep in mind, you're spending $100 an hour to do that. So when you go out there and you're landscaping or going to the grocery store in the middle of the day, or you're going to the post office or whatever the case might be, I know we're limited right now, but these are short and long-term strategies. then you need to be considering the fact that you're spending a part of that $100 that you could be earning should you be doing the real work that would get you $100 per hour. This pertains to those of you out of work and looking for a job. If you are out of work and looking for a job and you made $100,000 in the work environment before, and now you need to be a time manager and you need to use the same hours you were working when you had employment to find a job, then you taking any of that time away from that, schedule, 9 to 5 schedule that you define for yourself, to do things that are less than $100 an hour, then you're never going to meet your goal. You just won't. So what you need to consider is you need to think about, as you look at your to-do list of, and hopefully it's not the pages like I mentioned of my friend. When you look at your to-do list, you sit there and you say, okay, so, and these were on Bruce's list. So, I need to go to the grocery store in the middle of the day because I drop them, food off to my parents, blah, 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 dry cleaners, doing social media posts, tweets, Facebook. And I say, okay, so of those things that are not $100 an hour, what can you delegate to somebody else? All right. Now, delegating to somebody else might mean you order it online in the case of all those other things I talked about. Even the post office, you can put your mail in your mailbox, put the thing up and let the mailman take care of it. You can get postage stamps at home. You can weigh at home. You can do everything. So what can you delegate? Now, social media posts. I even recognized this 5 years ago. I recognized that I was spending so much time doing my own social media, and I still do, but there's a gut of it that I no longer do, and my radio show production I no longer do, and I have an assistant that does that for me. Now, she only works with me five hours a week, nothing, huge, and yet I recognize that 5 hours has given me so much more back, so I can go and do the work that I do, that I need to do. And I'm just as guilty. I need to be doing more of that delegation, because I can fall into my own traps. I'm not free of all the what I call bitches in my world. I'm not free of all of that, just like you're not. But if you can find ways to delegate out things that aren't going to get you the value that you need in order to meet your goals, especially when it comes to income, especially when it comes to now, then you need to figure out another way of doing it. So you can delegate it. You can just totally delete it. You can just make a decision. I'm no longer going to be doing this. I'm no longer going to be, caring for my lawn. I'm no longer going to, you're not going to delete going to the grocery store, but you get the point. So you can delegate it, delete it, or delay it. You can say, well, I can't do this right now. I can't focus on it right now. I'm going to put it off for now. Again, always going back. If 80% of my income, 80% of my outcomes are going to come from 20% of the actions, the things I need to be doing, then the first thing you need to be doing is making sure that all those other things you're deleting, you're delegating, you're doing something else with, and you're only going to focus on that 20%. So then that 20% gets you 80% of the results that you want. All right. So that's time value management. And it's a tool that on a regular basis, I'll go back to my clients and say, all right, so, what's going on for the week or the month? And, okay, so, and it's a good way for me to challenge them, but it's really good for you as, the client, so to speak. You say to yourself, okay, I'm working on this. This is what's on my to-do list, but here on the top of my to-do list, and that's what I have them do, is their hourly value. And well, wait a minute, these things don't equate to that hourly value, so I need to find some other way of dealing with them. Or, and I don't even think I have it here, I also have a strategy of your revenue generating management. So what that is there is a certain number of hours or certain times of the day or evening that your customer or client is available for you to sell them. And now, if you have a 24/7 online, that's fine. But for the many of you that don't, there's a certain, time block that your customer, your client is available for you to sell them to. So that could be online, but it also could be where you have to go out for meetings in the future. You can go out for meetings, you can get on phone calls, you can do Zooms and all that kind of good stuff. That 9 to 5, let's say it's 9 to 5, that time block of time, that is your revenue generating hours. And you really can't be doing anything in those revenue generating hours that isn't feeding that value, that time value, which equates to your goal and your objective. If any of those things that you're doing within that revenue generating time block isn't feeding that value, you definitely need to figure out a way to delegate it or delay it or delete it. And as a result of that, my point being is, say you're 9 to 5. Well, that leaves your early mornings. So you can't, you feel you can't make phone calls till 9 o'clock. Well, then you can get up first thing in the morning, 5 o'clock, 5:30, to do whatever you need to be doing. You can, do work later in the evening. You could do it on the weekends. If you can't delegate it, maybe you can't afford to hire somebody or whatever the case might be, then you need to make a decision that you're going to take all of those non-revenue generating activities and you're going to move them into your non-revenue generating hours. All right. And again, that's a great tool and a great strategy combined with your time value management in order to help you make decisions about where do I need to spend my day? Where do I need to really focus and put my energies into? Because this to-do list looks very overwhelming, and yet at the same time, only 20% of it is going to get me what I want. So you need to figure out where or how else you can move those other things aside. Okay. The next thing would be your productivity profile. So your productivity profile is, and I'll throw out a little bonus here. If you are interested in this productivity profile document, then shoot me an email or post your name in the chat room or just follow up with me afterwards, and I will send it to you. But your productivity profile is ensuring that you are aware of how best you work and when best you work and how best you work. Because many of us go about our day and we really don't think about the fact that, I suck in the morning, or I, start falling apart at like 3 or 4 in the afternoon. They just instead, because they feel as if they need to, and many people do because they work, in corporate and or for somebody else, but I have a challenge to that. And so what I say to them is you need to let, if you already know what your productivity profile is, you need to let other people know what it is. Because if you're not working at your best in a time period that you're required to work, then they're not benefiting, let alone you're not benefiting. So the productivity profile provides you a whole list of questions to consider in all aspects of your life of where you work best, what time periods, what environment, whether or not you work best in teams or as an individual contributor, whether you have certain distractions that people should be aware of and need to be aware of in order for you to be able to be heads down and producing like you need to be. It kind of walks through a whole series of self-assessment questions for you to get a really good idea about whether or not only are you being as productive as possible, but I have clients that have used this to communicate it to their team, communicate it to their managers, to readjust their work schedule. Like I have one that, and it's been for years, but she horrible in the morning. I mean, horrible in the morning. And she always felt pressure. Well, everybody's at the office at 8, 8:30, 9 o'clock, and I need to be as well. Yet I really get going, at like 2 to 4 and into the evening, but everybody else is X, Y, and Z. And I'm like, well, have you ever just considered asking? Considered, just kind of putting it out there that this is, your time block of where you're, most productive and most successful, and barring, really critical team meetings and whatnot, is there a way for you to be able to adapt and adjust your schedule? She did. She asked. And they said yes. And they just adjusted her schedule for like an hour in the morning to where she doesn't have to get in there at 9 o'clock. She could get in at 10, and she likes being there till 6 or 7 to avoid traffic. And everybody was happy dandy, and she has excelled in that position of hers, where she really felt that she was going to be struggling. So if you get to know your productivity profile, you'll really potentially open your own eyes, let alone if you communicate it to other people around you. They may be able to help you ensure that you're as productive as possible. Okay? All right, we're going to keep moving. There's a strategy I use with my clients called fear management. Fear, an acronym, and for those of you who follow me on a regular basis, and I see a number of you out there, you've heard this before over and over again because I continue to repeat it. So fear management, fear is an acronym. Okay? Look at it as an acronym. It's an acronym for false evidence appearing real. So when those times that you're in the junk, you're in the anxiety, you're in the middle of the stress, the unknown, the distractions, the insecurity, the doubts, and the fear. Remember, it's false evidence appearing real. Now, what does that mean, especially in a time like right now? I mean, there's certainly a fear that people can get sick and people are dying. Yes, that is real. That is happening. However, if you took that fear and just turned it into concern, into awareness, then you're going to be a lot more calmer and logical about coming up with solutions to solve that fear. When you're in the middle of fear, that anxiety, that sadness, that depression, whatever the case might be, you can't think clearly to figure out, okay, how will this really impact me? And impact me today. You can't worry about tomorrow. It's not here yet. You can only do what you can do right now. So false evidence appearing real simply kind of tries to ground you in recognizing that you get clear, you get logical, unemotional, and you look at it very analytically around, what am I anxious about? What am I stressed about? What is the problem that's causing all this emotion? And then what is the solution to that problem? So in the case of now, it is that social distancing, it is that sadly isolation, it is that ensuring that you're doing everything that you can to prevent it happening to you. But even if it were to happen to you, listen to the professionals, not anyone else, but the medical professionals around the impacts and the effects and the things to do to not necessarily only prevent it, but even to mitigate it should it happen to you. But that pertains to anything in your life. Anything in your life. Right now, many of you losing jobs. That creates fear, anxiety, stress. But guess what? You will have a job again. You will have a job again. And there'll be that difference of thriving and surviving, where people who have lost their jobs, they're thriving by seeking out other new opportunities, recognizing that there are jobs, that there are other things that they could be doing. There's those that are surviving have still not raised their head up to wanting to do anything about it yet. And they're just, stuck, paralyzed in their false evidence appearing real. So false evidence appearing real is simply a tool to keep in mind of, okay, so if it's true that it's false evidence appearing real, then let me define the problem that I'm having that's causing all this junk, and what solution I can come up with. What things can I be doing? What measures can I be taking? What actions could I be pursuing in order to abolish and or rectify that problem that I'm having? And there's always a solution to every problem. All right? Okay. The next one would be attention. This a next strategy would be attention. A lot of us certainly keep ourselves busy, and like we talked about with the productivity profile, we certainly know for ourselves, sort of maybe not consciously acknowledging, where and how we are productive and how we are most effective in our day in, day out life. All right. But majority of us don't pay attention to it. So even when I talk about time management, it really isn't about managing your time. It's really about ensuring that your attention is being put where it needs to be put, which means priority. So it really comes down to attention and priority as far as what it is you're doing and what it is that you're working on and where you're putting your energies and whether or not it's going to be only that 20% of your actions will give you 80% of your results versus you're chugging at 80% acting to get only 20% of your results. And attention comes into play as a tool and a strategy for how you plan, any part of your world, whether that's your career, if you do have a business, whether that's your family, your health, your fitness, your life, your money, whatever the case might be. And what I recommend to my clients is I love having them really consider their vision and their goals for the year. But if you're like me, when it comes to dieting or quitting or doing anything, a year seems so far away. And the next thing you know, months pass and you're like, well, I have, 8 more months to lose that weight or get fit. Oh, another few months pass. Oh, well, I still have like 4 or 5 months. So I'll work on it. I'll get there by that year. It just is too far out there to where we don't really pay attention to what effort and what work we need to be doing now in order to achieve our outcome. So what I suggest to individuals is to get your year planned out and then break it down into smaller increments. Break it down to quarterly. Think business, right? Break it down to quarterly. Break it down to monthly. Break it down to weekly. And then even take that week and break it down to every day. All right. So if you have a monthly goal, say it is to find a job. All right. Let alone to earn income if you own a business. So you want to find a job. You determined that you want to find a job in the next 8 weeks. So now we're going to look at it, from a monthly perspective, and then we're going to break it down to a week. So by the end of this week, I want to have maybe my resume, because you haven't had one in a long time. So I want my resume done. I want to have made, multiple phone calls, a certain number of phone calls. I want to have uploaded it into a certain number of websites, whatever the case might be. Take that goal, break it down into smaller increments that you'll pay attention to. And then even that weekly goal, break it down to, okay, so now it's Monday. What do I need to do Monday to meet my weekly goal? People can, it's almost like they say to only give you things in bullets of 3. It's only because you can only process and want to process and hold on to it in small increments. So that weekly being broken down by day, and I always say pick the top 3 that you need to do for the week. So there's that 3. And that's what you're going to do day 1, and then whatever's left over and or still a priority for day 2, so forth and so on through the week. And then the next thing you know, the week, you look at it and say, have I achieved? Have I not achieved? What do I need to carry over into the next week? What do I need to stop doing because it's no longer important? What do I need to add because someone kind of threw something at me that wasn't expected? You're constantly adjusting and constantly working it. Now, I had a phone call actually with one of my clients, and she actually expressed how much she's gained from this one strategy of attention and actually planning and priority, which we'll discuss next, and how much it's given her confidence and energy and focus in only a matter of a few weeks that we've been working together. So if you put the time in to really think out and think through the goals that you have and then, create those timelines of when you want to achieve that goal, break it down into increments. It may not be quarterly, monthly, weekly, and daily. Come up with what, fits for you. But at the same time, do it to where you then are tracking it and working toward it, and you're assessing and you're patting yourself on the back, and or you're making adjustments as you need to go forward. Okay. So once you have that, and once you have the attention on it, every decision that you make should go right back to that. Every decision should be so much easier about what you should be working on. If you combine the time value management, how much your time is worth per hour, along with, I'm drawing a blank, along with the delegate, delete, or delay, you can now be saying, all right, I can make decisions very quickly now based on my hourly value that I'm going to delegate, delete, or delay these activities. And then I'm going to use my attention on my yearly, quarterly, monthly, weekly, daily to determine what I'm supposed to be doing today to meet my weekly goal. And then when I look at the week, to the month. And then I can look at the month and say, okay, where am I against that quarterly, so forth and so on. So it helps you make decisions so much easier. It helps you plan out your day so much easier. It helps you really recognize what it is you should be working on. All right. But yet say, okay, well, I have this big to-do list and I have these daily things that I need to be working on. What more should I be doing? Well, I tend to just advise my clients that if you want to be as productive as possible, spend time planning. I have in my own schedule 15 minutes every morning of planning. Now, it started like 45 minutes to an hour when I first started this years ago. But now it's, I can do it in 5 minutes, but they don't give you 5-minute increments on my calendar. So I have 15 minutes. But what I suggest to people is somewhere between Friday and Monday morning, you plan out your either that week or the month that you're talking about. I wouldn't go beyond a month, but that week or that month. And it's all based on your goals that you've defined. Now, then you're looking at your, week and you're planning it out, and you come up with your to-do list for that week against those goals that you have, paying attention to making sure that you only want 20% of the actions that'll feed 80% of your outcome. So then on Monday morning, because who knows, you might wake up and get an email or a phone call that could change what you had just planned out yesterday. So Monday morning, you look at your list of things to do. Now, what I suggest people to do is only have 3 things on your to-do list every day. 3, no more. 3. And those 3 are feeding that weekly goal. And those 3 are then prioritized. There's no such thing as 2 number 1 things to do. No such thing. No such thing. There's only 1. There's only 1. Now, you may have your boss on this ear, and you may have something else on this ear saying, no, mine's more important than yours. Mine's more important than yours. You can't work on 2 things at once. You can't. You have to choose. So which is the number 1? It's not going to be both. Which is the number 1 that you can then focus solely on that one and get it done based on whatever timeline you're responsible for. So each morning you do that. You pick the 3 that you're going to work on toward that weekly goal, and then you prioritize them and you start working against that priority. Now, there's some people out there that, that number 3 priority might be just something that takes 10, 15 minutes, half hour, and they want to do it first. I don't advise that, only because then you start working on that and then the distractions and the squirrels and everything else comes along. So what I often suggest to do is to get your 1 to 3, work your 1 as much as possible, as must as possible, and you can either complete it and move on to number 2, or maybe you complete it and you have other dependencies that you're at a point where you can't work on anything else because you're waiting for somebody else. So now you go to number 2. Now, what I would do is if number 3 or number 2 are things you don't want to be doing, like, especially when it comes to sales, I always tell people, if you don't like to call, then get that done first in the morning. Now, it might be that call calling was your number 3 thing on your list, If it's something that you absolutely don't want to do and you're going to start procrastinating on it and pushing it away, then I would say, okay, then pick a amount of time that you're going to devote to it first thing before number one. But you still need to get number one done because that was your number one priority. All right. Now, at the end of the day, you look back at what you did and you determine what's going to move forward into the next day or what's been completed. Yay, celebrate. And or what maybe changed. But you always want to kind of look at your day and say, okay, so how was my day? Did I achieve what I wanted to achieve? What came up? What do I need to adjust? And what will tomorrow look like? And if you can build a routine to where each morning you're doing this, and again, it might at first be uncomfortable and take some time to get all that done, but it'll get to a point where it's very natural, where you wake up in the morning. I have this little notebook. It's like this big. It's a little spiral notebook. And I just right there put 3 things in there that I need to do against the goal that I have for that week, which is based on the month. And I have my yearly goals and then I do monthly. So against that monthly goal. But it's a little notebook. It takes me 3 seconds and then I just scratch. Oh, nothing's better than scratching something that you've done it, that it's finished. It's a wonderful feeling. So take advantage of that when it comes to priority management. So we had attention management and then priority management, and they all feed very nicely into each other. Okay. Now time blocking. And I apologize. My printer went on the fritz. I wanted to print and show you a copy of time blocking. I advise my clients to block off everything on their calendars, to where their calendars are like a rainbow. That could, for some people it's overwhelming, and for others, especially if you are kind of more, not only just visual, but you are more compliant and steadfast in the DISC profile. You like to see everything planned out and organized. But time blocking is where you take everything within your day and you make sure that you've blocked the time out. So for instance, the 15 minutes of planning I mentioned that I plan out every day on my calendar, that's there. My client time is there. Any hours within my revenue generating hours that we talked about that isn't current client based, then becomes like sales and marketing because it's prospective client based. So it's going to all feed to to sales and marketing, which means I'm going looking. So it's still my revenue generating hours. Now, of course, in my revenue generating hours, I do have breaks built in there. I do have my lunch built in there. I even have where at some point I actually go out and I walk my dog, and it's like typically at 3 or 3:30. And then I have my end of day, and then I even note out there when I, go to the gym or play pickleball or whatever the case might be. But you block out your week, in time blocks. Now, why this is important is going back to that laundry list that you have and making sure that you're really focused on that 20% that's going to give you 80% of the results. That means that those things that you've delegated or that you're delaying are then plotted elsewhere outside your revenue generating hours. So say you aren't able to pay somebody to do something, so you're not able to delegate it. Well, you're going to delegate it to a different time block outside your revenue generating hours if it's not revenue generating activities. Some might argue social media is revenue generating. No. If it is branding, if it is marketing your programs or marketing your products and services, fair enough. But if it's, just kind of getting out there, socializing and sharing, you really want to kind of build time outside your revenue generating hours. But you want to build it into your time schedule. So you treat everything as if it's an appointment. Now, some people say to me, well, it's really hard for me to not be able to, not be able to take an appointment or not be able to sit in a meeting or not be able to do something for, a particular time during the 9 to 5 9 to 5 time block. And I'll immediately say, well, is it feeding and contributing to your goal? And they'll say, no, it's just something I have to do. And I'll say, do you? Do you have to do it? Can you not block your schedule as if it's, just like anything else, that you have to do something in particular during that time period and you can't take appointments? I tell people this a lot, and this is going to be for somebody in corporate and or business that's more kind of mature. Their business has been around a lot longer, or they've got a lot more fluidity in the corporate career that they have. And I'll say, even block out time that is going to be personal time. If you do need to take a break during the day, and go to the gym or go to the dog park or do whatever, and it's not impacting your revenue generating hours, then block it out as if it's an appointment and respect it like it's an appointment. And ensure that nothing gets blocked in that time. So time blocking is really good, especially for those of you who have a hard time saying no, and you fill up your schedule, your revenue generating hours with activities that's not serving you, but it's serving other people. Okay. Time tracking, if there are, and I know we're running a little bit, if there are tasks that you do on a repeatable basis, what I recommend to people is to kind of track your time. Take 2 or 3 days, even a full week, and really track where you're spending your time in any given workday. And just so you're aware, just so you're paying attention, and you have that attention and that priority on the things that are going to get you toward your goal, whether that's finding a job, earning more income, building your business, whatever the case might be, even if it is personal. Figure out, it'll contribute to your productivity profile. Figure out if where you're spending your time is feeding the outcome and the results that you want. And the only way to really be doing that is to pay attention and be self-aware and track it during, at the end of each day, maybe for a full week. And kind of say, how much time do I spend on Facebook? How much time do I spend watching TV? How much time do I spend with clients? How much time am I spending in meetings that are serving my goals but aren't serving my goals? How much time do I have, walking the dog? How much time am I spending playing pickleball? Whatever the case might be. Time tracking is also a great tool to kind of rein back in, where your effort is going. Distraction management. And this kind of plays in with the productivity profile that we talked about earlier. Part of your productivity profile is distraction management, and that is really being aware of what distractions cause you to go swirling or going off in a different direction or causing you to shut down. What specifically are those distractions? We all know them. We all if we are aware, we can all name them. So, what I want you to do is to be able to manage it. I actually want you to be able to schedule for distractions. If you are distracted by the fact that, especially working from home, if you are distracted by the fact that it's really nice outside and, there's a path that you're allowed to be on, right down the street, or you have your dog and you want to go for a walk, or, whatever the case might be, well, then know that you're going to get distracted and plan for it. Time block 20 minutes, 30 minutes out, and make up for it if it's in your revenue generating hours, but try to be aware of it, to prevent it, set up, whatever you need to do to prevent it, but then also, if you have to, schedule it. You can set a timer, that I am going to allow myself to be distracted for 15 minutes and I'm going to get on Facebook. And you could just, you can set a timer and allow yourself to do that. I have that with Wordscapes. It's an app on your phone. Every once in a while, I just say to myself, you know what, I need to get away and I need to get out of this book or out of this program that I'm writing, and I just need to come over here and distract myself. So I'll set an alarm on my phone, and Wordscape is right there, and I'll let myself play Wordscape for 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and then kind of regroup and get back to what I need to be doing. So distraction management is also something to be very self-aware of. All right. Let's see. Just want to make sure what I recommend to people as well is this is all about self-awareness, right? If you know how best you work, how worst you work, what your distractions are, what motivates you, what depletes you. If you are self-aware of who you are, then you can easily come up with remedies and solutions and strategies for either enhancing and enriching and expanding the things that are working for you, but then also to, delegate, delete, or to solve what's not working for you. So one of the things I have in your workbook is an opportunity for you to really think about what are my productivity issues. And it goes back to this productivity profile. Should you want the worksheet, all you have to do is shoot me a DM. You could post it here, say, Bernadette, I'll take that productivity profile, sheet, or send me an email. But list out the issues you have with productivity. List them all out. And then think through what solutions, what things can you be doing differently in order to mitigate or prevent that productivity issue. All right? Because we all have the same 24 hours in a day. And yet, people will look at certain others and say, wow, I just don't get how they get so much done. They've built this huge business. They have all these opportunities and this income and, all this wonderful stuff. I don't know how they do it when I have the same 24 hours and I can't seem to get myself moving, to get myself, generating like they're generating. So you need to put attention and priority to, your profile, who you are, and how best to exploit all the things that work for you while you're trying to delegate or delete those things that are working against you. Okay? So I kind of gave you some action items to do on your own, and that is, also identify what the excuses are that you say to yourself for not getting work done, for not achieving your goals, for not having what you want, for not being able to thrive instead of just survive. Again, self-awareness is the key formula here. If you're self-aware of who you are and what works for you and what doesn't, then you can always find those things that are going to help you break through and achieve what it is that you want. The other one is to really list your productivity issues and solutions. So those are kind of two to-dos that I've given you in order for you to start to be able to look at overall how you perform as a time manager. Okay? All right. So the last thing I want to do is just remind you that we talked about goals and whatnot as part of this program as well, but I am going to be rolling out my live coaching series called Goals to Riches Blueprint. And it goes over a number of days. It really covers all aspects of not only the challenges of goal setting, but creating your goals. You're going to create your goals right here on the program with all of us. And then we're going to talk about them. We're going to coach on them. We're going to talk about, the self-sabotaging belief systems that people have that cause them to stall or totally give up on their goals and how to overcome that. We're going to spend a lot of time talking about a Richie mindset because it is that thriving. You need to have a millionaire, abundant, thriving mindset. Not to say that you want to be a millionaire, but more so, it's an attitude. It's a behavior. It really defines how you go about living and thriving in your life. If you have a certain mindset that is working for you and feeding you, as opposed to working against you and depleting you. So I'll be sending information out in regards to that because, like I said, just about a couple hours ago, I decided that I would relaunch that program that I did back in early February. I'll launch it Monday because I've been hearing from you, and it's certainly something that you all can leverage in order to kind of work yourself through this state of being that we're all in right now. Okay. And again, if you want even the replay of this, and maybe you didn't get out there to register, you're just watching this on the live feed on my Facebook page, it is going to be coming down very shortly. And those that have registered, and the link is in the post right here that you can go register. Just give me your name and your email address, and I'll make sure you have both the workbook and the replay. And then I'll look forward to meeting you back out here sometime in the very near future, if not Monday. Mary, what a great program. Oh, thanks, Mary. Yes, Mary was a very active participant in our Goals to Riches program. Well worth the time investment. The program got me moving in the right direction personally and professionally. Thank you, Mary. I appreciate that. And I am so happy to be working with you and seeing in a very short period of time, because I mentioned earlier the progress that you've made in regards to the planning each and every day that you've been doing over the last couple of weeks. So for everybody here, thank you so much for participating, and I'll look forward to having you at another program in the future. Everybody have a great day. Go get productive. Bye.